I wanted to welcome you to the most exciting part of my day, which is watering my plants. Why is this exciting? Because I've always loved watching things grow and flourish. This is a little baby aloe from my big aloe, which has been taking a rest in here all winter. I planted this aloe outside in the garden last year, and I'm going to try again this year. I already watered these little baby seedlings with just plain water, but there's some that are growing up and have their true leaves, so they're ready for water with a little fertilizer mixed in. I guess these are the embryonic leaves and these are the true leaves. I've been learning a little more about botany from other gardening channels. This one's going to need either a bigger pot or just to be planted outside soon. It's a scarlet runner bean. I've never grown these inside before. There's two more back here. They're trying to peek up and get the sun from the window. I need more grow lamps. And I've never tried growing ginger either, but these are ginger roots. Ginger clones from an original ginger root. This one on the left is doing really well. It's also a scarlet runner bean, but it's right up next to the window. But these are getting what they call leggy, which is when they get too long because I don't have a proper grow light. This light that I've been using is a full spectrum light that my ex-boyfriend gave me it's just for working on crafts or light therapy. So I need the real proper kind for my plants, which I've never owned, I don't think. So that's the most exciting part of my day, in an introverted excitement kind of way. Back to editing videos. Yeah, it's really strange. Especially, I notice understanding people when they're not being clear.
I like to paint or draw or doodle while I'm talking in therapy.
And remembering anything, because there was a $200 deposit. And I'm like, what? Because I hadn't planned for that. I had planned for the cost of the rental car, but not the deposit. Need to get some water. Anyway, they were prepared to make some kind of deal with me, but then they looked back and they're like, you paid this last time you rented a car, like 6 months ago, but I have no memory of it. And they thought that was strange. Of course, I don't tell them, yeah, I have a brain injury. I'm about to drive your car. Which I did fine, by the way, but there's certain people that I don't just volunteer that information to. If I know the person well, I'm going to tell them, but that's one thing I worry about because I'm working with DVR and I'm hoping to find a job. And at some point, I have to disclose my disabilities so that I can get accommodations, which I think I will need. I don't know which ones. That's why I'm working with DVR, because I don't even know. I don't know what exactly all of my issues are still, especially when it comes to working. I've had one job that was 10 months, or 11, it was a 10-month contract, but I ended up working 11 months. But I got extremely stressed, and they said that they wanted to keep me on, and they even, they've offered me a couple times since then that they would hire me. But I would come home and be a complete mess. Like, I couldn't juggle home life and working because I have 2 teenagers. So I need to, I can't just have a job that totally stresses me out unless I want to be, because I have to vent somewhere. I was going to the gym, but it's really common with after a brain injury to have intense bouts of anger, just because everything's so frustrating all day long that when something little happens sometimes, all of a sudden that's the last straw, just like a toddler, So I try to not, and I don't want to have meltdowns in front of my kids, which I did the day of the rental car, but I try not to have meltdowns in front of them. And I definitely I didn't have any at work. Well, I had one in the bathroom one time in the 11 months, but I didn't go off on anybody. But I have a big fear that I noticed. I was doing something yesterday that I was trying to have some insight on some things, and I realized I am really afraid of I don't know what it would be like. I am afraid in general of showing that I'm angry to anyone, but I'm getting a little better at speaking up for myself if something's not right. But I have a phobia, I guess, of really getting angry or having a meltdown in front of anybody at all. I just don't want to. I wish there was something where I could just turn that switch off, but I know everyone gets to that point sometimes. But it terrifies me when I'm like that, because I've heard people describe me, like my sister saw me like that once. She could just see me through a window. I was in another room than she was. I think she was outside and I was inside, and I wasn't around people, but I was just letting it all out because I was really, really frustrated. And yeah, and someone else has seen me like that before, and they both had the same reaction. They both came to me later and they're like, "Are you okay?" And it's like, with the borderline stuff, I don't hardly ever feel like I'm okay. So of course I don't like when people ask me that question either, because I'm usually not okay. Even when I've had a good day, I'm not okay. I'm not great on the inside, but I've been able to hold it together, I guess. But the EMDR has helped. I do have times now where I'm peaceful and I actually feel peaceful, like just painting or gardening or what's the other crocheting. Yeah, but that's pretty new for me. It's usually pretty tumultuous inside, and I'm trying not to show it on the outside. It's like screaming and um, I don't know. My body has a lot of energy in it, so I'll usually be shaking my arms or jumping or something. I've seen other people act like that who don't have any
mental health diagnosis that are just upset. And the times it's happened, it's because of real things. It's not like it randomly happens, but I just, my home was really violent growing up, and I never knew when that type of stuff was going to happen. So I don't like putting that on other people, like it was imposed on me. I don't think anyone's ever ready to have someone go off on them like that. That kind of rage is usually like a buildup of a bunch of other things that are going on, and it's not reasonable to direct that at one person, I don't think. But yeah, everybody gets angry. I don't know. I haven't had people say that before, that they're scared of me, but I have had people say, I feel like I have to walk on eggshells around you, even when I've been trying really hard to hold in my reactions. So it's like something they can feel, and that's a, borderline trait where I know that, where if someone feels like they have to walk on eggshells around me, I know it just makes me sad now, because I know that has to do with the borderline stuff. And I have friends who have it now, and I've been around them, and I can see how people would start to act that way around us, or individually, in relationship. But when I'm around them, I try really hard not to walk on eggshells, and I just let them know, of what's going on, because yeah, sometimes they have a strong reaction. Like one of my friends, she got upset when I gave her a hug when we were talking, and she usually likes hugs, and had never gotten upset with me before or since, but this was like over the summer. And she's like, you should ask for permission before you hug me. And I'm like, really? I was like, if you're really sad and you need a hug, you want me to always ask you for permission? And at the moment she was saying that, but then she thought about it later and she apologized, and she's like, no, I do like when you give me a hug. And she's like, I just was having a rough day and I was feeling unsafe about something else, so I was putting that onto you. But I think we tend to do that. Borderlines tend to do that. Not always let our emotions out at the most appropriate time, because we are overwhelmed a lot of the time. But also, I've learned that, like through the DBT stuff and being more aware of my body, that certain people and situations just make me feel unsafe, and I don't always know why, but I can leave that situation, and I don't have to put myself through that again and again, and that really helps me to be more reasonable day to day. Boundaries. What normal people have. Yep. Yeah, and I did something really helpful that DVR paid for last month. I think it's November. It's called a physical capacity examination, and a physical therapist put me through all these tests for, I think it took 7.5 hours or something, and figuring out physically, just pushing me to my limit, and to the point where I was crying, to the point where I was dizzy and all that, testing what I could do for a long time, and then what I could not tolerate at all. They even tested like my typing skills and stuff, which were really good. She said that's a strength of mine. But I can't lift pretty much anything from the floor is one thing that we found out. But there's like overhead tasks. I got really dizzy. My heart started doing something weird, because they measure your heart rate the whole time. So, Yeah, that was interesting. Because I'll have these dizzy spells, and I was having them when we visited my mom last time, and I was like, can I use your blood pressure monitor? I've never done this before, but she has a wrist one, and so I waited till I felt dizzy again, and I checked it, and it did the same thing. It's like, it can't measure because it measures your heart rate too. It couldn't get a read on my heart rate. Like it said E3, like something weird was going on. So I have to look into that. But I mean, I definitely get that heart racing thing and palpitations. I've had that since I was a teenager, but my kids get it too. But yeah, just there's like a lot going on, and people wonder why, because I live by Gonzaga and I live by a bunch of businesses. They're like, why don't you just go out and get a job and see what you can do right there? I think I'm pretty hireable by I can present myself well. But I tried that right after my accident. I went out and got 3 different jobs, just one at a time right after. And it was a hot mess. I mean, I don't think that's pretty disingenuous to put an employer through that, because they're putting a lot into training you. And if I'm never going to be able to do that job, and it's just a complete frustration for both of us, I don't really want to do that in my neighborhood either. I want to be reasonably sure that I could do a job before I go do an interview anymore. Yeah, because I say, I think I'm going to need a very understanding employer, even if it's a job that I end up being good at. I have some days where I'm just not very capable of anything. Like, I'm scared to drive or even go out anywhere because either emotionally or physically I'm just shot that day. They diagnosed me with fibromyalgia after the car accident, and it's hard to work with that because physically, like, things change from day to day really drastically, just like my lovely emotions with the mental health problems I have. And same thing. Oh, what were you saying? Oh, same thing with it's interesting because with PTSD and BPD, and then also with fibromyalgia, they both have triggers, and then you can go into a flare that lasts a while. Like with fibromyalgia, it could last a month, where something set you off physically, mentally, emotionally, and if I have both, like if someone attacks me physically, that will set everything off because I'll be physically hurt, but also having to deal with it all emotionally. Not that I expect that to happen at work, but if you were a security guard, then you could definitely have that happen. Well, what I've been doing now, okay, so what I tried was house cleaning and waitressing because I thought those were pretty simple. I had done those jobs before and they were like so easy for me. Those were like, I could have another job at the same time and go to school. It was so easy, but I couldn't handle them even though it was like my full focus of the day. A lot of it had to do with memory at that time, but also like physically it was way too hard. And then so I got fired from those, which I hadn't ever been fired from a job. So I tried volunteer. Well, I thought, okay, what's really easy, like, and wouldn't require much memory. And I decided to volunteer with the local food bank. Well, I was just sorting vegetables, and that was great. Just talking to people, sorting vegetables, because I just wanted to do something productive. And then they figured out how smart I was without me telling anyone anything. But I think she wouldn't be called the CEO, but the head person there somehow figured out and was coming down there to talk to me when I was sorting the vegetables. And then after like 3 or 4 days of doing that, she said, "Why don't you come up and work with me in my office?" And she was trying to find out about my business skills because I have a degree in that too, and I was a grant writer before. So she found that out, and then after she brought me up to her office, and then she asked me to start. She's like, "Why don't you just try? You know, we have some grants that we want to apply for, and it's no big deal if we don't get them." Well, I helped them get all the grants, so that was great. And then she found another client for me. So I was doing that, but then it got really, really stressful. It's like that whole, I get really overwhelmed easily. I was noticing that again yesterday. Just, and I can't multitask, so I don't think having multiple clients was good. But I ended up looking at people's proposals and stuff, and then just deciding, I told them I don't think I can do this as a job. It's too complex for me still, but I'll let you know in the future if I can. So I didn't even take it on because I could tell that, because the ones I applied for her were like a Home Depot one for them to get new freezers, and another one was a food grant, I think. And they were more simple, but some grants are like 400 pages of an application, and that's the type of things these other people wanted. And actually I'm in a brain injury support group now, and I didn't know this was common, but I found out like this week that it's really common to not be able to read very well after your brain injury anymore. And I was having that problem where I could read, but it was going through my mind like a sieve, like a like a spaghetti strainer. Like I could remember maybe 25% of what I was reading, which wasn't helping because it's you have to retain it all for grant writing. You can't just like let some details slide. It's a legal agreement. Yeah, it's binding legal agreement. And you have to be able to explain the nonprofit to the grantor and the grantor to the nonprofit. And I just couldn't do all that anymore, I realized. And so, yeah. So I took a break from that. I think I've done a little of that here and there, but only if they're easier ones, I guess. And so then I had the job in information systems, actually there where you work, and that was the contract job. And I didn't do anything wrong at all. It was a good job, but I couldn't handle the interpersonal parts of it. It was really hard on me, like dealing with different departments, and I was doing void requests, so I was dealing with all the different departments, but and everything was fine until I'd get like an email, a personal email from a clinician or a HR to me, and some of them were antagonistic and stuff, and I was really scared because I don't trust myself very well. So if my work is questioned, I think, oh no, I gotta start all over from the beginning. I screwed it up. They're right. I totally think that, and I don't feel like I can stand up for my work like I used to and say, no, here's what I did. This is why it makes sense. I just cave easily, and that's a real big attraction for bullies. So that got very stressful, and I ended up checking myself into inpatient for the first time in my life because I was actually suicidal over it because I felt like I couldn't do anything right. Yeah, it was bad. I felt like I was failing everybody in my life, which that was probably borderline, taking one situation and extrapolating it into my whole life. But I got a lot of help there, and I'm glad I did it. But that was extremely humbling. I had never even thought I would ever have to do that in my life. And yeah, I use those skills. Like I got very stressed this winter as well. I'm just doing art and selling it now. And I have an Etsy, and I have a shop here in town that I sell it in. And I just noticed that it doesn't have to be I mean, I guess it's kind of stressful selling art, but to me, that doesn't seem like a great reason to get really stressed out, or like family stuff. But I get completely overwhelmed for some period of time, and I have this big complex now of I can't do anything right because I've screwed up at so many things. I don't think it was good for me emotionally to rush into work doing things that I definitely couldn't do. But I felt like I had to support my family because I'm a single parent. So looking back, I did what I felt like I had to do, but it also wasn't a great thing for me. Like, it wasn't the best thing for me. I should have been resting and working on maybe with an occupational therapist or something instead. Yeah, nobody prepares for a brain injury. Oh, the other thing that was, oh, go ahead. Oh, the other thing that was really fucking with my mind is, so, before the brain injury, for several years, right out of college, I was a case manager at a company called Elder Health. They have a different name now, but they're still in business. And I did well at my job in the first year, and they asked me to co-direct a program the second year. And it was for TBI survivors. I didn't even know what a TBI was back then. But so for a while, until I quit that company and moved to Spokane, I was a co-director of a TBI program, and I learned a lot about it, and I saw how it affects people. But I mean, a lot of people do get really suicidal because, like, the people I was working with, some of them used to be fighter pilots and doctors and things like that, and they can't go back to their jobs ever, ever, ever again. And that was what they did their whole life. And like, a lot of our identity, those were men, but I don't know if it's just because I'm a single parent or because of how I am, but a lot of my identity was wrapped up in what I could do in my work. And you feel like you've lost that. It's a big grieving process. Um, yeah, and I've been taking this supplement called Nariva that my insurance covers. It's over the counter, but the clinical research shows that it helps you build new neurons and new connections. And I've been feeling like very much more capable since then, and going back to some of the things that I used to do, and being able to, like, playing really complicated piano music again, because I've been playing piano at least since I was 5, and I was considered a prodigy when I was little, but I lost that for a period of time. I couldn't even, like, play a simple song or read music very well. So yeah, I can play the complicated music again, or remember the words to songs. And my cooking has gotten better again, because I used to be a professional baker while I was in college, and for Great Harvest, and they make everything from scratch there. And then I worked in this town, I worked for Le Petit Chat, which is a French bakery, and everything there's from scratch. And like, everything was consistently good when I would do that, and I'd make people's wedding cakes and stuff, and I would teach the teach other people. But I couldn't even make cupcakes anymore for a while. Everything would always come out wrong, even if it was just a mix. Like it'd go flat or explode, or I'd forget it was in the oven and burn it. But I've been able to bake bread and rolls again and cook meals. And those things are significant, but that makes me also feel like, yeah, I could concentrate and remember enough to work probably if I can do these things at home. So that, I mean, it's improved my quality of life even if I don't get to work. I'm not dead set on having a traditional job anymore, but it's always in the back of my mind because I really miss it. It's just nice. You get a lot of pats on the back from like your boss and coworkers too if you can do a good job. And I felt like I was, especially the type of stuff I was doing, I felt like I was helping a lot of people with the grants and the programs and the, you know, I worked with teenagers, autistic teenagers for a while, and I know, I mean, I still have the letters that people wrote me about how I changed their life forever. And so I miss being that capable. But being there for my kids is definitely significant. That's a big part of life. Oh, are we gonna do EMDR on Zoom? Okay. I still have flashbacks, which I think you should know, like really intense ones. And mostly some of that, yeah, and also mostly childhood stuff, like when I was really young, which is weird because most of my childhood's blank, but then I'll have these really. I thought that I was making them up when I was younger, but then I found out these were real things that happened from family members. So, I didn't know what flashbacks were when I was younger, but I've had them my whole life. And the EMDR helped me get rid of a couple of those. I don't have those same flashbacks anymore at all. So I'm really hoping to work on some more current stuff and some childhood stuff. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I hate talking about that stuff, but EMDR with Lori was the first time I did, but the fact that it just helps so much, and then I won't be thinking about those things constantly or all day long. I realize that it's important to do because I don't like to blame anybody for what things are like now, but yeah. Yeah. Yeah, sounds good. I'll talk to you next Friday. Okay, thank you. Bye. Have a good day. So that was it. I gotta call my sponsor now, but that was a kind of typical therapy session for me.
I must say it is a very surreal feeling recording yourself on a therapy session, but it's even more surreal going back and editing and re-listening to myself talking about the inner parts of myself and trying to think how I would narrate that and add pictures. It's like it reminds me of an MC Escher artwork where there's like a window inside of a window inside of a window.